Hi everyone, welcome to Uke Theory with Matt Stead. This video we're going to have a look at 2-5-1 progressions, moving on from 1-4-5 progressions. 2-5-1 progressions are the building blocks of jazz music. They also evolved slightly to become useful in modern pop music, which we'll see later on. Now, a 2-5-1 progression just means literally we play the second, the fifth and the first chord in any scale. And as I say, jazz music, especially trad jazz, sort of jazz standards, are really built on these 2-5-1 progressions. Now, I've written out the key of B major here along the top. Now, B flat major. And the key of B flat major has one flat here and another one here, so two flats altogether, a B flat and an E flat. It's a really common key for jazz music because it works well with the horns, so it's really worth getting to know, even though it might seem a bit scary with these flats compared to the C major scale. You'll soon get used to it. Now here's our B flat major scale. So a 2-5-1 progression, a major 2-5-1 progression, is simply the second chord, the fifth chord and the first chord in this key. Now, if you looked back to one of my earlier videos on chord building, I explained that you can either have 3-part chords, 4-part chords, or even more than that, but those are the two most common. Now, jazz music tends to use the 4-part chord variations of these. So remember, in 4-part chords, as we found out in our video, the first chord is a major 7, the second is a minor 7, third is a major 7, a minor 7, the fourth is a major 7, the fifth is a dominant 7, the sixth is a minor 7, and the seventh is something called a minor 7 flat 5, or you could call it a half diminished chord. That symbol there means a half diminished chord. Okay, so those are our 4-part chords. It's looking busy already, isn't it? We'll get rid of some of that in a minute. But notice that the second chord is in this case a C minor 7. The fifth chord is an F7, and the first chord is a B flat major 7. Let's try playing those. I've written the chord boxes up here to help, but I'll try and show you on my ukulele as we go along as well. So a C minor 7 is barring the whole of the 3rd fret. Okay. An F7, you'll know from our last video, can be played like this. Or we can also, if we want to, add our little finger to this position here. So from nose to toes, that's 2, 3, 1, 3. And then our B flat major 7, there's lots of different ways of playing it, but the way I like to play it is by barring the 3rd fret, and then my 3rd finger is just on the bottom 3 strings of the 5th fret. So from nose to toes, that's 3, 5, 5, 5. Now remember, on this 3rd fret, you've only got to put pressure on that top string. You don't need to really wrench down on it, just on that top string. And that will take a little bit of practice, but that's your B flat major 7. Okay, so if we put that together, so we have this one, I quite often call this big sausage. Okay, then we would have our F7, and then we've got big sausage and little sausage split apart like this. Okay, that's your major 2-5-1 progression. You might recognise that as the start of Autumn Leaves. Those falling leaves drift by my window. Okay, that's a major 2-5-1 progression. Works in all keys, but I'm concentrating on B flat for today. Now, jazz music tends to build trad jazz music, especially jazz standards. They tend to build songs using major 2-5-1 progressions, and then immediately followed or preceded by a minor 2-5-1 progression. Now, remember that every major key, and this is in my videos about scales if you're not sure, every major key has a minor equivalent that has all the same notes, but just starting from a different place, starting from the 6th note in a major scale. So this scale I've drawn out down the bottom here, G, A, B flat, C, D, E flat, F, has all all the same chords as here. In fact, we could write the chord names in the same. So our G is still going to be a G minor 7. Our A is still going to be an A minor 7 flat 5. Our 3 is still going to be a major 7. Our 4 is going to be a minor 7, just like up here. Our 5 is now going to be a minor 7, so the D is going to be a minor 7. The E flat is going to still be a major 7, so I'm just matching the chords up. And this one is going to be a dominant 7. Now, the reason I really like to think in terms of a minor key in equivalent to the major key is that you've only got to remember 7 chords, okay, in any key. These are the chords: a major 7, minor 7, minor 7, major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, half diminished. Now the minor key, the chords are the same. You just start from the G. So we've still got minor 7, but this time our second chord, because we're now on this one, is a minor 7 flat 5, etc, etc. Now that's really important, because when we write out our minor 2-5-1, instead of starting with a C minor 7, the 2 now is this half diminished chord. It's the one that's a real mouthful. Minor 7 flat 5. That just means a minor 7th chord and the 5th note is flattened. That's all it means. Okay, so our minor progression, we start with this A minor 7 flat 5. Then we play the 5, which is D minor 7. But, why do we have a D7 here and not a D minor 7? I'll explain that in just a second. Then we go to the 1, which is a G minor 7 as you'd expect. So minor 2-5-1, now 2-5-1, A minor 7 flat 5 or half diminished, the D minor 7 and G minor 7. Now do you remember in that last video when we looked at that 1-4-5 progression that one of the most important movements in music is the tension created by the 5 chord? We looked at a G7 to a C. And how that dominant 7th chord, that G7, makes you want to go back to the tonic, that 1 chord. Well, jazz musicians found that if they use this 5 as a minor 7, okay, this one here, it kind of works, but it didn't create the tension that a normal dominant 7 creates. So whenever we play a 2-5-1 in a minor key, instead of this minor 7, we tend to use a dominant 7. All right, that's why this is a D7 and not a D minor 7. If I play this progression, this D7 really wants to go back to that last chord. Whereas if I played it with a minor 7, oops, that's bad, isn't it? It kind of doesn't work. It doesn't want to resolve back to this chord. So here's our minor progression now. We have an A minor 7 flat 5. Remember that's called a half diminished chord, an A minor half, an A half diminished chord. Now, this one I'll quite often call big sausage, little sausage. So to play this A minor 7 flat 5, we bar the whole of the 2nd fret and the bottom 3 strings of the 3rd fret. So nose to toes, we've got 2, 3, 3, 3. Now I've developed some really bad habits. I kind of use 3 fingers to play this chord, to put pressure on here. But remember, this finger on the 2nd fret, you've only really got to touch down on the top string. Some people will play it like this. An index finger here, and then 1, 2, 3, like a waterful of fingers. I think, to be honest, however you can finger these chords, just try it. Okay, just experiment, see what works with you. After that, we have a D7, family favourite. And then to finish it off, a G minor 7, that's really nice and easy. Nose to toes, 0, 2, 1, 1. So if we put that minor progression together, then D7, move that out of the way so you can see, and G minor 7. Now those two progressions, your major 2-5-1 and minor 2-5-1, combine to create some of the most classic jazz standards of all time. One of the most famous being Autumn Leaves. Should we have a try at it? So let's very slowly, all I want you to do at home if you're playing along, and this is new to you, is just play one of the chords just once, and then as I'm strumming, get your fingers ready in the next chord and strum it once. And as I'm strumming, get your fingers ready for the next one. It's a difficult one, isn't it? And strum. And then we're going to do the minor one. Get your fingers ready as I'm strumming. And then we're going to do the G minor 7 at the end. I'll try and keep my uke here so you can see these chord symbols. Don't worry about this one for now. I'll explain it in a minute. We're just going to play these chords, major 2-5-1, these chords, minor 2-5-1. Okay, let's give it a go. 2, 3, 4, C minor 7, F7, and then B major 7, B flat major 7. Then let's do the minor progression. A minor 7 flat 5, D7, G minor 7. Let's do it again. Major 2, 5, 1, minor 2, 5, 1. Okay, that's the building blocks for all jazz music. Hopefully it goes some way to explaining as well why some of these jazz chords have really funny names, like an A minor 7 flat 5. It literally is just that chord that you would expect when you're building 4-part chords in that key. Okay. This little blighter, just in terms of Autumn Leaves, which I've written out here, which will be quite interesting to some of you in a moment. This little blighter is just the chord that quite often goes to join together these two things, okay? We'll quite often use a major 7th to just join together these progressions. Not always, it's just what the composer decided to, Jacques Prévert, isn't it, I think, decided to put in Autumn Leaves. So where I've put an asterisk, we play this chord, an E flat major 7. And that's just barring the whole of the 3rd fret, and then a finger on the bottom string at the 5th fret. Kind of like a big sausage, and then a P on its own over there. Okay, from nose to toes, 3, 3, 3, 5. So the whole of Autumn Leaves, if you fancy having a crack at it, is major 2-5-1, these chords here. Then this asterisk, we play this E flat major 7, and then minor 2-5-1, and we play that twice. Let's give it a go. You can take it really slowly. Remember, just play one chord at a time whilst I'm strumming and see if you can play along. I'm moving like this so you can see this chord down the bottom. Here we go. 2, 3, 4, 1. F7, E flat major 7. Then we're going to put this one in, E flat major 7. Then the minor progression, D7, G minor 7. Let's try that again. 2, 3, 4, C minor 7, F7, B flat major 7. Then the joining chords, then the minor progression. So the whole of Autumn Leaves is written out here just in terms of chord progressions. We have major 2, 5, 1. Joining chord, minor 2, 5, 1. Then we have another minor 2, 5, 1. We have a major 2, 5, 1. We have another minor 2, 5, 1. And one last minor 2, 5, 1. I'm finishing on the 1 chord. Should we try putting that together and sing it together? I don't quite remember the chords that well, but just see if you can play along with me. Those autumn leaves drift by my... Oh, I'm going wrong, sorry. I'm going to start that again. Those autumn leaves drift by my window. Joining chord. Those falling leaves of red and gold. Can we do that again? I see those lips, those summer kisses, those sunburned hands I used to hold. Now a minor 2-5-1. Since you went away, the days grow long. Now a major, and still I hear a winter song. Minor 1, but I miss you just the same, my darling. One more minor. When autumn leaves start to fall. Okay, there you go. A major, minor, 2-5-1 jazz progression. You'll probably have lots of questions about that. If you do, join me this Friday at 5 o'clock where I'll be here for a Facebook Live.